I'd like to talk for a few minutes about acquiring and using jQuery. Here is an HTML document with an empty spot where script code would potentially go, and at least custom script. And right here is a reference to a library called jQuery.js. And because of the way that this URL is written, that assumes that this file is right in the same folder as your other stuff. And for me, if I go in this particular file that I'm looking at right now, jQuery1.html, happens to be in a folder called jQuery testing, and it's in my public Dropbox folder. So this file is publicly available on the internet. However, you got to get this jQuery file in here somehow, first of all. So how do you do that? So let's go out to the web and let's go to jquery.com, and right there on the page it says download jQuery. So you click that and you want the compressed version. Oops, look at that. That's not how you want it though. So this is what jQuery looks like. Nice and minimized, meaning it doesn't have any extra white space in it. Oops, darn it. Save link as, and I will download it somewhere. So maybe I can go Dropbox and go to public, and I will go to my jQuery folder in homework 3, and I can save it there. And as it is now, it's got this big long name associated with it, and I might as well just rename that to something else, but I've already got it renamed. But that's how you would get it. Okay, so once you have jQuery available to your file, what can you do with it? Well, in my particular document, not much because I don't have any HTML on the page. But if I did have some HTML on the page, uh, here I am over on the W3 School site looking at jQuery examples. And yeah, so one thing that you can see is that there's all these things that you can do to HTML elements, like you can hide them, you can have them respond to like mousing over them. You can have JavaScript respond when you mouse over a particular portion of the page. You can have HTML elements fade in, fade out. You can have them slide up and slide down and animate them in special ways. You can use it to get and set HTML. You can use it to remove the element from a page. You can use it to get and set CSS information anywhere in the page. You can also have a div tag on the page and load in content into there. And you can also, with these get and post methods, you can actually communicate from your HTML page with other web pages out there. You can either post data to a web server somewhere, or you could get data from somewhere. So you might use that functionality if you were to, for example, reading from or writing to a remote database. Now, why is it that we have jQuery anyway? Because jQuery is really just JavaScript sitting on top of JavaScript. Uh, and as you've probably read and picked up somewhere by now, there's a DOM that's associated with an HTML page, which allows you to traverse through your pages and the different parts in your page, the different elements. And in different browsers, whether it be Safari or Internet Explorer or Chrome, all of them kind of have messed things up enough where you have to tweak your code and write your JavaScript a little bit different for every single browser. So jQuery gives you one way of writing a specific command that will work in all the browsers, and it will do the dirty work of implementing your command in 3 different ways. So maybe the hide command to make something disappear, maybe the code would be difficult to write for 3 different browsers, but you can do it just one way with this. Now, the thing that's like I find particularly uncomfortable about jQuery is that the syntax. So pretty much the syntax always starts off with this $ parenthesis, quote, and then it ends, and then you got a dot. And so in this case, we see this first example. It's talking about a paragraph tag in the document. In this case, it will hide all of the paragraph tags in the document. But you can also access things with a certain ID. So if a tag has ID equals test in it, is going to hide that specific thing. If you have something with a class, which is a different way of setting a, like for example, a CSS property across lots of different tags, you can use it with this notation. So it would have class equals test as an attribute within a tag, and if it had that, then this would match it. So here's the funny thing about it. So pretty much all your jQuery things then have this format. So whether they're animating or doing whatever it is that they're doing, they tend to begin like this, and that's the part that's a little bit weird. There is one other thing that's weird about it. Let me pull up an example. In the real world, pretty much all the web pages out there that use jQuery have this in it. Now, what this is telling us is it's looking at the DOM and it's saying, look at the document. And what it's saying here is when the web page, I mean the document, is ready, it wants to do whatever happens in here. And I think that the way that this is written is a little bit confusing looking. Now, if you had a function called like say hello in your page, you could just say hello, and what it would do then is as soon as the document was ready, it would call say hello. But there's something else you can do called, they call it an anonymous function. Usually you write your functions this way, like function say hello, and you put some code in there like your alert box or whatever. So that's usually the way you write a function. But you can also just have your function be anonymous, meaning it doesn't have a name, and that's how it's written right here, function. So, and what this really says is that as soon as the page is loaded and it's ready, it's going to do any of the JavaScript commands that you put in here. And so I could put in here, for example, alert hello from jQuery. Oops, I hope it's not hell. Hello from jQuery, and I hit save. I go over to that folder, I copy the public link, I go over to a web browser, type it in, it loads, it says hello from jQuery, and just for fun, if I hit F12, I see that there are no errors in this page. Alright, now if you are working with an HTML page that was being used to develop a mobile application, one thing that you would likely have a lot of are list items and anchor tags, a href equals something, so you have links then that are probably associated with a list item, and these anchor tags are used to create the navigation around the site, and you're supposed to get back and forth between pages within the mobile app, rather not site. You're supposed to get back and forth between different views within the mobile application by clicking on links. And the way that that's done is oftentimes by hijacking the normal behavior of an href tag or an anchor tag and using instead what jQuery can do. So you can actually reprogram the way that anything works in a web page and say, well, rather than it being a regular link, how about when you click on it, it does this job, some JavaScript command like read some text from somewhere and repopulate the page with that text, rather than going to that different page specifically. That's all I'm going to say about it for now.